All right, well, let's get started. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this informational webinar on conservation programs hosted by U.S. Senator Bob Casey's office, USDA, uh, Nrcs, National Resource Conservation Service, and the PA State Conservation Commission. We're grateful for everyone taking the time to join this call today. I want to start by introducing myself and the other panelists on this call. My name's Andrea Guscott, and I am one of Senator Bob Casey's constituent advocates. Also on this call from Senator Casey's office is constituent advocate Nefatia Lundy. From USDA, we are joined by Ryan Cornelius, who is the PA EQIP program manager, and Beth Sassaman, who is the district conservationist in Chester County. From the PA State Conservation Commission, we have Eric Cromer, who is the Conservation Program Specialist. We're grateful for all the panelists' willingness to join our office for today's call. Before we get started, I will quickly note that if you have any questions, please hold them until the end of the presentation when we will have a Q&A session. We ask that you please keep your questions general and applicable to as many people as possible since this is a public call. If you have questions regarding your own specific situation, contact information for Senator Casey's office and our panelists will be provided during the presentation for you to reach out to directly. At this time, I'm going to turn the call over to USDA to delve more into the specifics.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm Ryan Cornelius. I'm the EQIP program manager for Pennsylvania Nrcs. And if you can go to the next slide here. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if you went to the next slide or if I'm just not seeing it.
Hi, Brian. Yes, it is on the next slide.
Okay, I'm going to just pull it up on my, so my internet's slow here. I'll just pull it up here and then I'll just go along. Okay, so when you're working with NRCS, all the work done with NRCS is voluntary. It's free, confidential. We have staff that work with producers of any scale in both rural and urban environments. NRCS employs natural resource professionals such as soil conservationists, biologists, foresters, and engineers. These professionals can help you with developing a conservation plan for your operation, technical assistance to help address resource concerns identified in the conservation plan. We can also help with financial assistance to help reach your conservation goals for your operation. NRCS defines natural resources to include soil, water, air, plants, animals, humans, and energy. For soil, we are looking to reduce or prevent soil erosion, maintain and improve soil health and quality. For water, you're looking to improve the water quality on and off your operation, reduce and prevent issues with excess or insufficient water. When it comes to air, we're minimizing emissions and drift of particulate matter, pesticides, foul odors, and greenhouse gases on your operation. For plants, we're looking to improve productivity and health, increase biodiversity, minimize pests, and reduce wildfire threat. For animals, we can look to help provide feed, forage, and water, shelter for livestock, establish or enhance wildlife habitat for biodiversity. And when it comes to energy, looking to improve energy efficiency of your whole operation, equipment, facilities, farming and ranching practices, as well as the field operations. If you can go to the next slide. So our programs offered through NRCS are funded through the Farm Bill, and with the new Inflation Reduction Act, that has added more money to Farm Bill programs such as EQIP, CSP, and Rcpp, which I'm going to talk about here. But the first one I'm going to talk about is our big one. It's the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. I'll be referring to it as EQIP. And EQIP provides financial and technical assistance to agricultural producers and non-industrial forest managers to address natural resource concerns and deliver environmental benefits such as improved water and air quality, conserved ground and surface water, increased soil health, and reduced soil erosion and sedimentation, improved or created wildlife habitat, and mitigation against drought and increasing weather volatility. Next slide, please. So with our EQIP program, again, it's a voluntary conservation programs, help the producer make conservation work for them. Working with Nrcs, Nrcs and producers invest in solutions that conserve the natural resources for the future while also improving agricultural operations. Through EQIP, Nrcs provides agriculture producers and non-industrial forest managers with financial resources and one-on-one help to plan and implement improvements, or what Nrcs calls conservation practices. Using these practices can lead to cleaner water and air, healthier soil, better wildlife habitat, all while improving agricultural operations. Through EQIP, you can voluntarily implement conservation practices, and Nrcs co-invests in these practices with you. Some of the benefits include reduction of contamination from agricultural sources, such as animal feeding operations. So you're looking barnyards, manure storages, stuff like that. Efficient utilization of nutrients, reducing input costs and reduction in non-point source pollution, and increased soil health to help mitigate against increasing weather volatility and improve drought resiliency. Next slide, please. So with EQIP, some of the popular conservation practices that you can look to apply for could be cover crops, no-till, nutrient management, waste storage facilities, heavy use areas, trails and walkways, stream crossings, fence, prescribed grazing, grassed waterways, diversions, terraces, forest buffers, herbaceous buffers, forest stand improvement, high tunnels, and many climate-smart agriculture and forestry mitigation practices as well. We have many different fund pools when it comes to the EQIP program, where we rank like applications. So we have cropland, the cropland fund pool, livestock, grazing, organic, beginning farmer. We have socially disadvantaged, forestry, golden wing warbler, conservation incentive contracts. It's a new one just started last year. We have urban, and we have many others. Pretty much EQIP is if you're looking for a conservation practice, more than likely EQIP has it. Next slide, please. The next program I'm going to talk about is the Agricultural Management Assistance Program. I'm going to refer to it as AMA. AMA helps agricultural producers manage financial risk through diversification, marketing, or natural resource conservation practices. Nrcs administers the conservation provisions while the Agricultural Marketing Service and Risk Management Agency implement the production diversification and marketing provisions. Some of the popular conservation practices that people in Pennsylvania apply for through AMA include cover crops, irrigation, integrated pest management, high tunnels, and many others. And Pennsylvania is one of only 16 states where the AMA program is available. Next slide, please. Next program I'm going to talk about briefly is the Conservation Stewardship Program. I'm going to refer to that as CSP. And CSP helps you build on your existing conservation efforts while strengthening your operation. Whether you're looking to improve grazing conditions, increase crop resiliency, or develop wildlife habitat, we can custom design a CSP plan to help you meet those goals. We can help you identify natural resource problems in your operation and provide technical and financial assistance to solve those problems, or attain higher stewardship levels in an environmentally beneficial and cost-effective manner. For example, we can look at ways to address the amount of soil lost. We can mitigate the impact of excess water, reduce the contribution of agricultural operations to airborne soil particles and greenhouse gas emissions, We can improve the cover, food, and water available for domestic, livestock, and wildlife. Or we can promote energy efficiencies for on-farm activities. Basically, if you're already taking some steps to improve the condition of your land and following some best management practices already, chances are that CSP can help you find new ways to meet your goals and exceed your goals. Next slide, please. The next program I'm going to talk about is the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, referred to as RCPP. RCPP is offered at the state and federal level and works to promote coordination between Nrcs and partners to deliver conservation assistance. Landowners are only eligible to participate in an active RCPP project area. The land to be enrolled falls within that project boundary, and with RCPP, a partnering entity needs to apply for the funds in the area to be eligible for assistance. So across the state, we have several different RCPP projects that people can apply for, again, if they fall in those areas. The best way to learn about all these programs is to contact your local NRCS office, and they can help inform you of what programs are available for you in your area, as well as work with you to come up with your goals and objectives for your property. But, next slide, please. So when it comes to eligibility, program eligibility, it says EQIP here, but land eligibility. What lands are eligible for EQIP? For eligibility purposes in Farm Bill programs, NRCS considers any land on which agricultural commodities, livestock, or forest-related products are produced as eligible land. That land can include cropland, rangeland, pasture land, non-industrial private forest land, and other farm or ranch lands. EQIP has no minimum acreage requirement. However, EQIP is a competitive program that awards points based on resource concerns to be addressed and other factors. So no matter the size of your operation, we're willing to work with you, whether you're a small operation, large operation, and you can be eligible for EQIP. Where it mentions about program, or it's a competitive program that awards points based on resource concerns. That just means that whenever we're looking at these applications, the more resource concerns you are addressing with an application, the higher the application will rank. So regardless of land size, that's the way that's looked at there. So producer eligibility. Who is eligible to apply for EQIP? Applicants may include individuals, legal entities, joint operations, or Indian tribes that have control of the land and currently manage it for agricultural, forest, and livestock production. Next slide, please. Okay, so applications for AMA, CSP, and EQIP, and RCPP as well, it should say RCP, are accepted on a continuous basis throughout the year with periodic cutoff dates to evaluate, rank, and prioritize the applicants. Applications are ranked with like applications in the various fund pools, and you should contact your local NRCS office for application dates and deadlines. So, for AMA, EQIP, RCPP right now, our first round cutoff for this year is going to be November 1st. So applications that we receive by November 1st will be considered first round applications. Those first round applications will be ranked against other first round applications. And then if we get an application after that date, it'll be second round. And if it falls past the second round cutoff date, it would be third round and so on. But applications may be submitted in person. They can be scanned and emailed. If it's emailed, they must include the signature, faxed, or mailed to their local USDA service centers. The application forms are available at your local USDA service center or from our Pennsylvania NRCS website. And you're encouraged to apply early to increase likelihood of being offered a contract. Because whenever we go down through the list, we go through the first round, and if we end up having money left over, we'll look at later round applications. So get your application in early, plus we'll be able to work with you on developing your conservation goals quicker as well. So next slide, please. So for more information on Pennsylvania NRCS financial assistance programs, please visit the website there below, nrcs.usda.gov. And we can also, so to find your local NRCS office, you can follow that link. It'll have you click on your state and then your county, and then I'll give you a name and number, and you can reach out to your local service center. It'll have the address there. You can go check it out if you don't know where that's at. Next slide, please. So when you are applying for NRCS programs, participants will need to establish eligibility with the Farm Service Agency, FSA, and they handle the eligibility paperwork side of things. So next slide, please. I got a few slides from them just to go over some of the basics here. And basically, the first slide here is find your local FSA office. The Farm Service Agency works with NRCS to process your eligibility forms. Find your service center through farmers.gov and the link there below. FSA may be in the same location, or it may be in a different location than NRCS. Most of the offices are co-located for ease, but let's go ahead and find where that's located here. It's recommended to call ahead and find out if there's any COVID safety protocols are in place. The office may recommend an appointment to ensure the staff can give you their full attention, and FSA staff can work with you by phone, email, and mail as well. So next slide, please. So FSA will work and collect the required information. So they'll end up getting your address, your tax parcel number of the land that you wish to enroll. If it's rented land, they'll be looking for a copy of a lease or a deed. If you own it, may also be required. Names, addresses, and tax identification numbers of the applicant. This information is required for all members, shareholders, or others within the ownership interest. The applicant is an entity or joint operation. FSA may end up requiring additional information depending on the business type, such as proof of signature authority or a trust agreement. Next slide, please. FSA will enter your information in their customer database, establish a farm and tract number, and assign it to your land. They'll assist you with completing required eligibility forms, which we'll go into more on the next slide. And they'll notify you of the results of any eligibility determinations required for your participation in NRCS programs. And then they said here, make sure to find out if there are any FSA programs that can assist you as well. FSA offers a range of conservation, disaster, price support, and loan programs for producers. Next slide, please. So the following forms are usually required in order to be eligible for NRCS programs, depending on the program, but they'll have you fill out an 80-2047, which is customer data worksheet. It's used to collect basic information, your name, tax identification number, contact information, etc., for your customer profile. Next form is the 80-1026 form. It's the highly erodible land conservation and wetland conservation certification form. This form is just used to certify that you meet the conservation compliance provisions and request a highly erodible land and or wetland determination if necessary. The next form, next slide please, is the CCC 902 Farm Operating Plan. This form is used to collect information about members and their ownership interest. It contains signature authority and also contributions to the farming operation. The next form is the CCC 941, the average adjusted gross income form. This one is used to certify compliance with AGI limitations. Many programs require an AGI under 900,000 when averaged over the prior 3-year period. Next slide, please. Some other forms you might end up needing, depending, is we have the CCC 860. It's a socially disadvantaged, limited resource, beginning and veteran farmer and rancher certification. Additional benefits may be available to those who are socially disadvantaged. If you're a member of a group subject to racial, ethnic, or gender prejudice, limited resource. According to the limited resource farmer and rancher online self-determination tool. So you'd have to go into this tool, and it's based on gross farm sales and total household income. The beginning farmer, someone who's not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years. Then the veteran farmer, someone who's served in the armed forces and has either A, obtained veteran status during the most recent 10-year period, or B, has not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years total. Next slide, please. They also gave me some slides for their Conservation Reserve Program. So the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, is a land conservation program administered by the Farm Service Agency. In exchange for a yearly rental payment, farmers enrolled agreed to remove environmentally sensitive land from agricultural production and plant or maintain species that will improve environmental health and quality. Contracts are 10 to 15 years in length. Next slide, please. So there are several different ones here. We have general CRP, which has sign-up dates annually, announced annually. It takes cropland fields out of production. Grassland CRP, those sign-up dates are announced annually as well, and pays to keep land in grass and pasture. Continuous CRP, sign-ups ongoing. You can do buffers, filter strips, wetland restoration, stream crossings, and fencing to keep livestock out of water, and etc. And then they have the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, CREP, and PA has 3 CREP agreements prioritizing watershed-specific goals in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, the Ohio River Basin, and the Delaware River Basin. Next slide, please. So in PA CREP, when you're looking at retiring highly erodible cropland, it's removing highly erodible cropland fields from production. You must meet minimum erodibility criteria set forth in the CREP agreement and must address the site-specific resource concern. And then protecting riparian areas and other special conservation practices. This can include planting trees along stream corridors, restoring wetlands, installing grassed waterways, and other practices. And you must address the site-specific resource concern there. And then otherwise, that is what I have, and I understand questions are going to be here at the tail end. But thank you very much, and up next we'll have Beth Sassaman.
Thanks, Ryan. My name is Beth Sassaman. I'm the District Conservationist for the Nrcs Field Office in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. And I have been working for Nrcs for 17 years, and the last 15 are at this location. Next slide, please. So this is the service area that we cover from Coatesville. And Coatesville, if you're not familiar with it, is sort of in north central Chester County, which is the county that's farthest west on the map here. And so typically in Pennsylvania, we have a field office covering each county or 1 or 2 counties. In our case, we have 1 field office covering all 3 of these counties. If you'll notice from the map, this is a land use map. A lot of the agricultural land is in Chester County in our area. There is more urban land, certainly as you get into Delaware and Philadelphia counties, which you are all probably familiar with. We do most of our implementation work in Chester County, but we do offer services and have worked on farms both in Delaware and Philadelphia County and do that regularly. So just because I'm going to be talking mostly about Chester County because that's where a lot of our partnerships take place and a lot of our implementation has been done, that doesn't mean that we don't do it in those other counties, and we certainly have and can. And whenever we have a request for assistance, regardless of where it is, we will make every effort to get to that site and help the farmers. Next slide, please. So the key to NRCS's impact on the land is that our services are completely voluntary and they're free. We do not visit farms for any regulatory purposes, and we make field visits when we're invited by either the farmer or the landowner looking for assistance. There is no charge to the customer for any of our services, including conservation planning, engineering, project implementation, or applications. Next slide, please. So this graphic shows the steps to obtain NRCS assistance. Steps 1 and 5, planning and implementing, are the heart and soul of NRCS and what we've done for nearly 90 years. And we do that in cooperation with the local conservation districts. Steps 2 through 4 come into play when a customer chooses to pursue the financial assistance that Ryan was just talking about. At the field office level, we do everything that we can to guide our customers through this process. Certainly, it can be very intimidating. I think Ryan mentioned 5 or 6 forms and different agencies and many different programs and a lot of alphabet soup. But we don't want that at the local level and really at any level to stop producers from participating. So at the field office level, we do our best to guide our customers through that process. And we start with the planning process and go all the way up through application eligibility, ranking, writing a contract, and ultimately implementing that contract. And if they choose to, we can go from step 1 all the way to step 5, and you don't have to participate in a program to get our assistance. Next slide, please. So conservation technical assistance, or CTA as we would call it, is how every project starts. We receive a request from a farmer or landowner to provide assistance with protecting the natural resources on their land. It may be driven by an ag preservation easement and they need a conservation plan for that, or they have some erosion in their crop field, or they don't have enough space to store their manure. So the way our planning process works, it's driven by the natural resources. So Ryan went over the resource concern areas that we deal with: soil, water, air, plants, animals, humans, and energy. So we evaluate the land for those natural resources and look at what concerns there are with the operation, what improvements the customer wants to make, and help them with that. Our goal is to give that customer personalized advice and information based on the latest science and research to help them make informed decisions. NRCS has a lot of technical folks behind us, giving us support from the state, the area, the region, and the national level. We have a lot of scientists involved in setting up our practice standards so that we have the best resources available for our customers. Next slide, please. So I mentioned conservation planning, and I just want to go over what that means. To start this conservation planning process, a conservationist visits the farm and really talks to you about your goals. So a conservation plan is defined as a record of decisions and supporting information for the treatment of a unit of land meeting planning criteria for one or more identified natural resource concerns as a result of the planning process. The plan describes the schedule of implementation for practices and activities needed to solve those resource concerns. So really the key terms I've bolded here: it's a record of your decisions as the customer. We set up a schedule and list the practices and associated resource concerns for them. Next slide, please. Another benefit of both to NRCS cooperators, our customers, and our conservation planners is our engineering assistance. NRCS applies engineering tools and principles to plan, design, and implement conservation practices and systems through what we call delegated approval authority. So we have licensed engineers that have authority, and they delegate that to staff members in the field. Once the planner has evaluated the land at the beginning of that conservation planning process, the planner might request an inventory and evaluation from one of the engineers. A final write-up is provided by the engineer and will typically include a selection of suggested practices to address those resource concerns that we've looked at in the planning process. And that document will come back to the planner, and the planner will review it with the customer and discuss possible options and discuss decisions that need to be made. The engineering staff also provide local field office and conservation district staff with invaluable on-the-job training, allowing them to increase their authority and also allowing us to make more of an impact on the land. We only have a few engineers, but we have more people working with farmers on conservation plans and implementing those plans in the field. So the more training that our engineers can provide to our field staff, the more impact we can make, the more improvements we can make, the more help we can offer. Next slide, please. So the next step in the on the ground process, I'll say, is implementation. So we have local staff that work with our customers to implement the conservation practices that have been included in their plan. We provide site-specific designs that may have been developed by our engineers or our planners with that authority. Also, we have instructions for agronomic practices. So certainly something like planting a cover crop doesn't require a design, but we do have recommendations that we make, and we provide those to you for the implementation. We also provide quality assurance and implementation during our contracting process. So we collect the information required to document applied practices and work you through the payment process, provide the documents needed to be signed to obtain payment, and process those payments as well. Next slide, please. So as Ryan mentioned, we have several financial assistance programs available. For many farmers, the costs associated with installing large conservation practices can be concerning. Our customers often apply for financial assistance to offset the cost of implementation. Our financial assistance programs are competitive, and sometimes applicants may wait a few years before an application is selected for funding. One way we've alleviated the backlog, at least in Chester County, is through our local partnerships and funding opportunities. Next slide, please. So Chester County has a number of local agencies, nonprofit organizations, and consultants that share an interest in protecting the natural resources here in our county and the surrounding area. We've partnered with groups to install best management practices and conserve land with easements. This is a picture of Chambers Lake, which is in Hibernia Park in Chester County. It was recently rehabilitated, and there were some repairs made on the structure itself. This is a flood control structure that was built as part of a Watershed Protection and Flood Prevention Act, PL 566. And PL 566 works through local government sponsors and helps participants solve natural resource and related economic problems on a watershed basis. In the 1980s and 90s, Nrcs worked with Chester County to install 5 flood control structures like this one, protect downstream communities from flooding. Chester County Water Resources Authority is the agency that now holds these structures and monitors them for soundness and at any flood stages. The PL 566 program also provided Chester County with some much needed assistance on mushroom operations in the 1990s. Chester County is the largest producer of mushrooms in the country, and over time, the nutrients that come off the mushroom operations from the compost that is put into the houses to grow the mushrooms and then removed was found to be able to contain a high level of nutrients and be able to contaminate groundwater, surface water, and soil. These are not operations that we had worked with traditionally, and so the Conservation District and Nrcs worked on funding through PL 566 to work on mushroom farms to protect the resources around them, to deal with their waste and the wastewater associated with those operations. And then once we did that, we were able to implement those practices or integrate them in our EQIP program. So now mushroom farms, before we're not able to, many years ago, we're not able to participate in EQIP, but now we can, based on that initial partnership and financial assistance that we had. Chester County Conservation District is also currently partnering with Nrcs on another PL 566 effort to address issues associated with the compost that comes out of mushroom houses after the mushrooms have been grown. It is a waste product, and dealing with that waste product, there's a lot of volume involved. And so it's often stockpiled, and we really can't fit addressing it into our EQIP program. So we're looking at this PL 566 program to develop some treatments for it. And so that's all done through partnerships. And one of the largest impacts that I've seen partnerships make in Chester County is the successful implementation of 3 Regional Conservation Partnership Program, or RCPP, projects. Chester County farmers received more than $4.5 million through those 3 projects for best management practices run just like our EQIP program was run. So they received financial payments upon the installation of best management practices. All of the projects that we had in Chester County, all 3 of them, were used to address water quality concerns. So if a farmer was implementing practices that were benefiting water quality on their farm, they were able to apply and potentially receive funding. These projects used countless partners. I added partners here on this slide, but I'm sure there are more. The 3 projects, one was sponsored by the Chester County Conservation District, one was sponsored by Stroud Water Research Center, which has a broad reach but is headquartered in Chester County. And the 3rd one was sponsored by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and covered more than Chester County. We also received match and partnership from Brandywine Conservancy, Brandywine and Red Clay Alliance, Chester County Open Space Department, consultants, Team Ag and Maori Environmental. And so I'm sure there's more partners involved, but that's just a short list of all the folks that came together for that project that really helped us provide all that funding to farms and also deal with a lot of the application backlog that we had for many years of using EQIP. Next slide, please. So I just talked about partnering, and I'm going to talk some more about it because here in Chester County, our partnership is really very valuable and we get a lot of work done because of it. So the longstanding partnership between NRCS and the conservation districts provides many advantages to both NRCS, the conservation districts, and the farmers that we serve. Certainly the technical expertise is second to none between the agencies. We're also able to share resources. We can share technical expertise, equipment, software, and staff in the field. Because we're on the ground and we're working with local leaders and this government agency that's been in the community for so long, we also can build confidence in the community. In certain parts of Pennsylvania and in Chester County, we have a number of older Amish communities in the Plains Act, and we have over time really built up a large number of clients in those communities, and it didn't start that way. So we worked together with some of the non-governmental partners and eventually sort of got in the door and are able to work with the Plains Act communities. And the same with historically underserved customers. And we have various historically underserved customers in our service area. One of the largest communities is Hispanic mushroom growers. And so we've also worked with them, and oftentimes we find the more we work with someone from any community, really, the word of mouth really gives us some good press. And we often hear, I've worked with my neighbor, you worked with my neighbor, and I think you can help me too. So our conservation district has also pursued additional funding, and they even have a staff member dedicated to doing this, to supplement our projects from our financial assistance, but also to provide increased opportunity for farmers to obtain funding for their projects. So they've done this through the Rcpp project that I just talked about. They've also sponsored some projects through the state of Pennsylvania, through Penvest and through Growing Greener. So we worked for many years together to address, we had a significant backlog of applications, but since we've gotten all these partnerships and this funding from other places, we've really been able to reduce that backlog and get people funding more quickly. And it's really helped us make a significant impact on the conservation landscape. Next slide, please. So, our mission as NRCS is helping people help the land. And we really locally work with partners to do that, but our end goal is always to assist the farmers in helping the land and protecting the resources for future generations. And that's really what we're talking about. We talk a lot about Farm Bill programs, and certainly that is what gives folks the incentive to do some of these things, because they can be very expensive. But at the end of the day, we're interested in protecting the resources on the land, however it's funded. Next slide, please. Here's my contact information. If you're not located in one of our counties, you can visit farmers.gov and use the Service Center locator to find the NRCS field office that services your area as well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Denise, do you want to make any closing remarks for USDA?
No, not at all. Thank you, Andrea. I just appreciate you allowing us to have our staff give you an overview of what USDA and specifically NRCS can provide as it relates to conservation program assistance.
We're very glad to have USDA with us today. And now at this point, I am going to transition over to Eric to talk about PASCC.
All right, thank you. Some of you may be wondering what PA State Conservation Commission actually is. We are a 14-member commission that is departmental administrative commission that is under concurrent authority between DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. For the first 6 months of the year, the DEP secretary heads the commission board members, and for the next 6 months, the Department of Ag heads the Secretary of Ag heads the commission. The main goal, the main mission for the State Conservation Commission is to ensure the wise use of PA natural resources, and we provide oversight to all 66 districts in the state, whether it's financial assistance or technical assistance. Next slide. So the State Conservation Commission has many programs. They administer the nutrient management and odor management program, dirt and gravel road program. But I want to talk to you today about the financial assistance programs that the commission does administer. One of the biggest programs that the State Conservation Commission administers is a REAP program. It's probably the most popular and might be the most known. And it is a country, across the country, renowned program that we do run. It is a tax credit program. This tax credit program allows farmers and businesses to earn credits for best management practices, whether it's for manure or for conservation. It also allows those farmers or businesses to purchase conservation tillage equipment, such as no-till planters, no-till drills, sometimes crop rollers and things like that. Also, it allows you to earn a tax credit for developing your nutrient management plans, whether it's an Act 38 plan, a manure management plan, and also it gives you tax credits for Ag E&S plans or your conservation plans. Eligible applicants may receive anywhere between 25 and 75% out-of-pocket expenses, and that is up to $250,000, and that is a revolving amount. Say, like the first year, you use up $250,000 in tax credits, and you go for 7 years. It has a 7-year rotation on it. Well, let's just say $100,000 the first year. So you got $150,000 left over that you can use the next year. And once that 8th year comes around, that $100,000 that you used in the first year, it goes off. So you'd be eligible for another $100,000. And if you have any questions on that, you can ask me at the end of it. Might be able to explain it a little bit better. The tax credit is available to a recipient is dependent on the type of BMP, whether it's a nutrient management plan. You can get 75% back on that, or if it's a piece of equipment, you're only going to get 50% tax credit back on that. And I'll emphasize, this is a tax credit. Many submit these applications that are they're expecting a check from us or the PAC Treasury. That's not how it is. It is a tax credit, and what you do with those tax credits is up to you. You can sell those tax credits to whether it's a bank or another entity, and they get that capital that way. Certain BMPs and TMDLs are eligible for 90%. I'll give you an example of that. Would be your street bank fencing is a good one for 90%. Off-stream waters that's tied to that practice is also eligible for that in those TMDLs. Next slide. So REAP is allocated $13 million each year into the program. So as soon as that is a rolling application period, it opens up on August 1st. And whenever we get to a point where we feel that we're going to run out of tax credit money, we'll send out a notice that we are going to be running out of money, and the application will be closed at a certain date. This year, it looks like we're going to probably run out of tax credits by probably, I would say, December. That's what we're looking at right now. So we've had close to 200 applications that has been sent in already, and we just opened up in August. So if you're working with anybody, or if you're a agriculture operation yourself and you're thinking about submitting a REAP application, I would suggest doing so as soon as possible. You can submit those applications online, or you can send them in as a hard copy. And if you have any questions about the REAP program, you can contact Joel Semke there. His information is right there. And he's usually pretty quick to get back to you if you have any questions on REAP. Next slide. So the Conservation Nations Grant Program, this is the program that I administer at the State Conservation Commission. It was part of the Farm Bill of 2019. It was a brand new program that was adopted by the State Conservation Commission. We administer it in-house at the State Conservation Commission, and it provides financial and technical assistance for the implementation of BMPs on agriculture operations. And originally it was just in Lancaster and York County, but with other significant funding coming into the program, we was able to open it up to Tier 2, which is Cumberland, Franklin, Bedford Center, and Lebanon counties. The financial assistance is available through grants under the program, but we do highly encourage that you bundle it with loans or tax credits such as the REAP program to try to stretch the dollar even further. We also allow the program to piggyback with EQIP. There's been many projects that have used EQIP as well as CEG funding. And a single grant award is for an eligible applicant is up to $250,000. We do allow, next slide, please. We do allow small grants in this program of under $25,000 because sometimes we're dealing with state money. Some of the districts wanted to have the flexibility to try to stay away from the prevailing wage, because if we're dealing with state funding, we have to deal with prevailing wage. So we allow them to consider these small projects just for that factor. So applicants can apply for CEG through the local conservation districts. This funding comes from us down to the conservation districts. We make the conservation districts in charge of their own program. So we'll give them a certain allocation per year, and how they spend the fund, or what BMPs or what applications they accept, is totally up to them. They have a ranking criteria that they use along with the state criteria that we give them. And it depends on what county you're working with is the cost share rate. So if you're thinking about CEG and those 7 counties that I had up earlier, I would contact your local conservation district to see what their cost share rate is. Funding is only available in those counties, but with the potential with more funding coming into the program, there is a possibility that it will expand outside those 7 districts. Again, the contact there is me. So if you have any questions about the CEG program, feel free to contact me. Next slide. So the State Conservation Commission also has the Agriculture Linked Investment Program. This is a low interest loan program for Pennsylvania agriculture operations, implementing BMPs that are in a Act 38 plan, a manure management plan, Ag E&S plan, or conservation plan. Next slide. So the Agrilink program is administered by the PA Treasury in collaboration with the Commission. We have $25 million in loan available through the PA Treasury. They give those out in $2.5 million blocks. It is currently available. Some of you may remember the Agrilink program before. It was set up with the Nutrient Management under the Nutrient Management Fund, and we were funding nutrient management plans as well as some small projects with that money. The Commission subsidizes a reduced rate to the borrower. So if you're looking at some kind of loan for your agriculture operation, or for BMPs that's in one of those plans, we can reduce that rate up to 3% of the current market rates. So if you're looking at a loan of 8%, we can drop it 3%, so you'd be paying 5% on that loan. So loans can be obtained through your eligible commercial lenders, which it has to be an eligible state depository or a farm credit service. Horizon Farm Credit Services is a big proponent of this, and they do a very good job of getting applications in for us. If you don't know if your local bank is a state depository, you can go onto our website and find that information. We have a list, a rolling list of state depositories on that website. So next slide. So the loan parameters, you're looking at a $250,000 maximum loan amount. That loan can be taken out over 12 years, and it also could be structured as construction loan. And the amount of loan is based on the eligible cost by the farmer and approved for the approved project. So what happens is you'll submit an application with your lender. Your lender will get all the information together, and they will send the information to both the PA Treasury and the State Conservation Commission at the same time. We will review that application, and if everything looks good, we will approve that, and then that's when you get your 3% reduced rate. All right, next. So this is the one that everybody is probably going to have a lot of questions about, and we at the State Conservation Commission have a lot of questions as well. So it's the Agriculture Conservation Assistance Program, or Acap. What we know now is through this Clean Streams Fund, part of the 2022 budget that was passed by the governor, they approved the Clean Streams Fund. In that Clean Streams Fund, there was $220 million. And that $220 million came from ARPA. And so with that that Clean Streams Fund, and also the Acap was also set up with that as part of the general fund budget. We were awarded 70% of that $220 million. So we got $154 million in grants. This is going to be a statewide program. We're in the middle of putting together this program, trying to stand this program up in as shortest time as possible. It's a good thing we had the Conservation Excellence Grant Program, because it's probably going to look pretty close to that. So we got, like I said, we got $154 million. The enabling legislation allows us to take some funding off the top of that. So we're going to be left with about $141 million. And that money has to be allocated by 2024, and it has to be spent by 2026. So we're looking to spend this money in a hurry. We have certain duties here at the State Conservation Commission with this, and we are able to delegate that down to the conservation districts. If they want to take on the Acap program, they can. If not, the commission or its designated agent will have to. This is going to be for all 67 counties. As earlier you heard me say that we have 66 conservation districts. That is true. There is 67 counties. The only county that does not have a conservation district is Philadelphia. But there is funding in the Clean Streams Fund for Philadelphia and this Acap program. So Philadelphia is going to have some opportunity here with some funding for agriculture. So the program is going to be administered just like the CEG program. It's going to be at the local conservation district if they take it on. And again, like I said earlier, if they don't, we have to figure that out at the State Conservation Commission. We have a funding formula that we have to distribute the $141 million. What we do is we look at the agriculture impaired streams and number of cropland acres and number of farms and number of livestock. So we take that and then we'll send out an apportionment to each conservation district, and weighing those four factors evenly across the board. And we come up with an apportionment spreadsheet. I'm not at liberty to allow you guys to see that right now. It is up for a 30-day comment period with the conservation districts. Nothing has been acted upon yet at the State Conservation Commission. We just have a lot of things going on right now. That's with this Acap program. So that's just about all I can tell you from that standpoint. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I can do a pretty good job of answering those questions because we've been doing this for 3 months. We found out, I think July 11th is when the budget with this Acap, and we've been scurrying along trying to stand this program up with only 2 people, Carl Brown and myself, that's working on that right now. Of course, we have some work groups with different districts across the state and different agencies as well. So we do have some help, a little bit of help, but for the most part, Carl Brown and myself has been trying to stand this program up. So if you want to stop sharing, I'll bring up something as well. It sort of ties everybody in together. We always get questions about what agriculture program, what conservation programs are out there for agriculture BMPs in the state. Again, this is something that's in draft. So I don't want to distribute this to everybody. So just something for you guys to look at. I think Nrcs has something similar, or USDA has something similar on this, which is where I actually picked up a lot of their information from. This gives you some of the state funding opportunities that's across the state that farmers have available to them. Like I said, this is in draft form, but as you can see, there is a lot of opportunities out there for the constituents of Pennsylvania. I think that's it, unless there's some questions.
All right, thank you, Eric.
You're
Do
welcome.
you want to stop sharing your screen so we can go back to the
Yep.
PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Alrighty, so thank you to all of our panelists. After I'm complete with our session, we will have a Q&A session. So I am now just going to provide an overview on how Senator Casey's office may be of assistance to constituents regarding common issues we see people face with USDA. So Senator Casey's Office of Constituent Services consists of a team of constituent advocates who assist constituents who are experiencing issues with a federal agency. This includes, but isn't limited to, Social Security benefits, missing passports, IRS problems, VA benefits, immigration snags, SBA concerns, and more. Specifically regarding USDA, we can connect with USDA on your behalf if you have a loan or grant application and would like a status update, or if you have a question or concern about the loan or grant you are applying for or that you have received. We can also contact USDA if you have a loan such as a mortgage with USDA and there's a missing payment. Our office can also assist with subsidy renewal questions about a loan. Furthermore, we can reach out to the National Finance Center if you are or were a federal employee and have a question or concern about your retirement when it's going through this stage. Go ahead to the next slide. And then finally, if you would like to request assistance from Senator Casey's Office of Constituent Services, either with a USDA question or for an issue with another federal agency, please do not hesitate to contact our office either at 717-231-7540 or our toll-free number, which is 866-461-9159. And you can also reach out to our office via the Senator's website, which is www.casey.senate.gov. So now we will open this portion of the presentation for questions for USDA or for our office. If you have a question, you can click on the raise hand button at the bottom of the participants list to indicate that you have a question. I will call on participants that have questions one by one and unmute you. And please note that this is a public call, so we ask that you please keep your questions general. If you have a specific issue, please feel free to contact us via the information on the screen. Okay, I see Laurel Hoffman. You are now unmuted, so go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. This is a question regarding EQIP. It is my understanding now that EQIP does fund best management practice for horse operations that aren't necessarily production. They could be hobby. Is that true?
Yes. So yes. So it would need to there. We do offer that. So we would need to still show conservation benefits and but yes, there. I would recommend you if it's a question from you, I would recommend reaching out to your local office, scheduling a site visit, and but yes, we can work with horse operations like that. Yes.
And if I could have a follow up, and this is just for for the benefit of the other participants, are we able to, or is NRCS able to do anything with grazing hog operations, or is there still a hold on that because of the feral population?
So yeah, so that's still at this point, if grazing hogs at this point is not looked upon is as a yes, that's still up in the air. If you have a specific question, reach out to us. And if you have a specific question as well for horses, a certain scenario, because depending on what resource concerns we have out there and what is going on, will depend on what we can do out there. But yes, the hog operation that's still up in the air. So yes, you can follow up with us on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question.
Alrighty, if anyone else has a question, I'll give it a minute here for you to raise your hand. Alrighty, well, not seeing any other questions. If you do have a question, our information was shared, so feel free to give us a call if you think of a question afterwards. But thank you to our participants and to all of our attendees for joining us today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Right, thank you.